Okay. This is a meeting of the Board of Selectmen, East Haddam, Connecticut, Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. And if we could stand. And I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A lot of stuff to cover tonight, and it's going to take a little while to do it all. And it's 7 p.m. And I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda as written. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections or changes? All set? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And we have a set of minutes from September 19th. And I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 19th, 2018 as written. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
And any discussion or corrections on those?
I did not see any.
I'm sorry?
I did not see any.
Sue?
I wasn't here.
Oh, that's right, you were, forgive me. I should remember that. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained.
And Sue. Thanks. Okay. Correspondence. We have a couple of items here. I'm going to start off with a letter from the Goodspeed, Emmett Lyman, Town of East Haddam, First Selectman. Dear Emmett, on behalf of everyone at Goodspeed, I want to thank the Town of East Haddam and all the first responders who came to our assistance after the storm last week. The efforts of the police, fire, and public works departments were extraordinary. And please pass along our sincere appreciation to each and every one of those individuals who assisted in the cleanup efforts. All of us residing and working in East Haddam are truly fortunate to have the highest level of dedication and generosity of spirit we experience from so many volunteers. And thank you, Sue and Robert, for your support during this difficult time. Sincerely, Michael Gennaro, Executive Director. And that was quite a turnout, and we'll be commenting on it in a little bit here. And we also have a notice of public information meeting. You've got copies of it there. I'm not going to read the whole thing. This is on the proposed replacement of bridge number 06887. It's going to be on Thursday, October 18th, 2018, regarding the bridge on Route 151 over Shady Brook. That's the bridge immediately adjacent to us here that goes Katy Corner at Wigwam Road. And it's currently 2 tubes underneath there, 2 corrugated tubes. I believe they're planning on replacing it with a single span, and it's something that's going to go in quite quickly. I questioned it. One of the things that I asked of them was that it not happen during the time when the school was open. It would create enormous problems for busing and for the schools, and they have agreed to that. In any case, that information is there for you. And correspondence, First Selectman's report, and we're going to start off with the Board of Assessment Appeals, the fall 2018 final report, and that's not going to happen. Ed, like to go ahead with that?
Sure. We meet twice a year in September and also in March for the purpose of calculating assessments. The September meeting is solely for appeals. We had at least a number of appeals this year that we've had probably in 25 years. Mike Gross, long-term member. We only had 5 appeals. We took $8,000 off.
Okay. That's the sum of it. Thank you, Ed. And I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the storm we had. That would have been September 25th, a week ago yesterday. And it started quite abruptly in the evening. Predictions in the morning had been around an inch or two, maybe 3 at the most. At 9 o'clock, coming back from a meeting out to the Sportsman's Club for the Lake Association, I couldn't believe the puddles. Got down to the Wrestling Cats, drove through about 8 or 9 inches of water, and got on home and realized this was really becoming quite an issue. Decided I wanted to get back to the firehouse. Came back. By then they had closed the bridge over Sucker Brook. Wouldn't allow us to get through. Daniels Road was closed. Ended up going over Smith Road, which was the only opportunity left. The small bridge down by the Industrial Park Road was also underwater and not safe. Got to the firehouse, actually stopped at Public Works on the way. They were out, but they were not there at that point. Got down to the firehouse, was able to talk to people and check up on what was going on there for a while. We had a very good turnout. People worked starting about 9 o'clock that night, worked right through legal limit as far as Public Works is concerned, which was the following afternoon, and they had to stop by statute. The fire department was there doing everything they could to help, pumping out people as fast as they could. In the end, we had about 6 inches of rain, perhaps a little bit more. Extreme flooding, a lot of washouts. According to Beth, my understanding is we had about 17 miles of gravel roads that washed out. A major problem for us. The Goodspeed had terrific problems down there. Not so much the road, which back in '82 washed out, but the parking area in front of the rehearsal halls washed out. Envoy had a slide. In between the two of those, they had to close the swing bridge for quite some time. Neptune, with the gully right next to the American Legion, ran into a problem. That eventually washed out, and roughly 15,000 cubic yards of material went downstream and is still down there littering the landscape. We've got some other problems that have been diagnosed since then that are pretty important. Hemlock Valley Road, if you go down, there's a point where you're turning to the left as you go downhill, and you're right along the brook, looking down about 15 feet into the brook, and some of that slid away. It's completely unsafe. The guardrail is leaning down into it at this point. I've instructed Beth to close the road. We're not going to allow traffic through there. The potential for that to slip and end up totally in the brook with whoever's on it is just too great. We're going to have to make certain of that before we open it again. Robbie Road has some issues with washouts, and I've instructed Beth to go ahead and get that repaired as quickly as we can. Those are the two biggies, or three biggies, the Neptune, the Hemlock, and the Robbie. I'm sure there are other issues. Pretty much all over town we have washouts on the shoulders of roads, and those present a problem for anyone who gets a little too close to them. We're going to wind up having to rebuild the gravel roads that washed out. Right now it's all passable. We were able to get into there and get them to the point where people can access their homes, can get through on the roads. But there's going to be an enormous amount of work to be done there. We're in touch with KERMA, which is our insurance company, and our lawyers, consulting them in terms of what we can do, what we can't do, where the responsibilities lay for all of this. And as I say, with a very few exceptions that I noted before, all roads are passable right now. A lot of problems remain. And we're just trying to do a full assessment and get that all sorted out and put back together. Beth, be asking her to comment a little bit here, but right now, what she's come up with is roughly $2 million worth of repairs that are of material for repairs that's going to have to be done. It's preliminary. Some of the roads have not been inspected, and these don't include man hours, equipment, contractors we might have to hire. This is a very big thing, and we get hit much harder than many other towns. If you watched it on radar, you could see just a long storm, a very long like a hot dog bun almost shaped, and in the center of it, this heavy rain, red and yellow, and it just went straight over East Haddam as it moved across. So we got hit pretty hard on that. Any questions or thoughts on that, or comments? A lot of work ahead of us. Beth, there you are. Would you like to comment on that at all, or offer some more insight into it?
I just want to say my estimates are preliminary right now. We've been tackling major safety concerns, so we've been trying to assess the damage as it arises. We've evaluated the town, but a lot of what's happening is undermining, so it looks fine, but as every time it rains, the shoulder has been washed away, so every time it rains now, it's taking material from under the pavement, which is gonna undermine the edges of all our roads, so you're looking at major assets with a paved road. Like Clark Hill, we paved that 2 years ago, and it's severely undermined, and if we don't address it, we can pretty much say that that road will be destroyed this winter. So a lot of the roads, it doesn't look like major damage, but every time it rains, it just deteriorates the edges and it's working in.
Last night with 1.25 inches of rain did not help out at all.
No, Robbie Road overtopped again and it's down to one lane with people that'll be landlocked.
We're still in the process of assessing what we've got, trying to come to grips with it, and just trying to create a priority list. Where do we go first? What do we do first? How do we handle it?
So do these repairs have to happen before the winter?
To the extent I think that we can, and really a question of budget. We've got to go to the Board of Finance. We can, by statute, do a certain level of repairs, get in there and spend some money, and we're doing that perhaps to the limit that we can. And we've already contacted Bill DeCristofaro. He's familiar with what's going on, and we're going to be convening the Board of Finance to sit down with them and really make sure that we have permission to move forward. They control the dollars.
And what's the status with FEMA?
We're looking into FEMA. I was not very optimistic. There are thresholds to be met. On a county level, it's $800,000. We're clearly going to meet that with our county. The state has to reach $5.2 million of damage. I think we're going to reach that. We're going to contribute significantly towards that. And other towns, Salem got hit pretty hard. Haddam got hit. Killingworth, Clinton, all the way down through has been hit pretty hard. So I think, and I'm getting reports back that sounds like the state is going to be on board. And then we need a disaster declaration. I've got Craig looking into that for us and then for the state as well. So there are certain steps that have to be followed to get there. We're in the process of moving through them all.
But there's no guarantee that we'll get that money.
No guarantees. No guarantees at all. We're hopeful. And it seems, the more I see, the more optimistic I am that it can happen. But once again, no guarantees.
Question for Beth. If you have to hire contractors, that will, as you say, inflate the cost here about 2.5 times. That would be important, I think, to include in our estimates for the repairs, because she's not including, that's just materials, so she's not including man hours and things like that. So the cost for these repairs is really much higher than the 2 million that she's quoting here, and that's just for
The $2
material.
million is materials.
I know, yes, that's just material. So for the total cost to the town, it's going to be significantly higher.
Yes.
And in some cases, it'd probably be more practical to hire contractors. So if the other towns are in that similar situation, then I suggest that, well, I would expect that we'll easily surpass the 5 million or whatever it is.
I would not, I don't want to speculate at this point.
But we should know by next 2 weeks from now, I would suspect.
I would hope we know a lot more. Okay.
Public Works does not have the resources to do a few of these jobs, but also time constraint. If we were to do this, realistically, 6 to 7 months, the entire crew, overtime hours, all our equipment. So there's no way we could address it come winter. It would make the roads unsafe.
I don't think there's any question but what contractors are gonna be involved.
And that's what I'm saying, those costs should be reflected in any reports that go out.
And we're just trying to put it all together. Good. Okay, moving on. Brian asked to be given the opportunity to address us in terms of the fire department, and there were a great many questions last time, so I'm going to give him that opportunity as fire chief, and then anything that he misses, I'll come back and touch on.
Would you like me to come up, or is this?
If you like, or stand, there you go.
You'll have to excuse me, I am under the weather with a cold, so I do apologize. To the citizens of East Haddam, I had the opportunity to view the East Haddam Board of Selectmen meeting on 7/18, 9/5, and 9/19 that was posted on YouTube. I'm extremely disgusted with the rant that former part-time career firefighter Jay Moreau put forth. I feel that a response to this in a public forum is now necessary. I am extremely proud of the department for where we came and where we are today. I will never let anyone break that. It is unfortunate that Mr. Moreau cannot acknowledge all the good the volunteers do for this town, which includes saving the town large sums of money by volunteering. Jay stated a few things that I'm more than happy to respond to. The following are topics which Jay directly cited. Jay stated the fire department is a hostile work environment. I don't understand this comment. The career staff has been allowed to come and go as they please without supervision since the program was started in 2006. It wasn't until First Selectman Lyman allowed there to be a captain's position that the staff had real direction. The current volunteer captain, John Sarnick, leads this career staff with all day-to-day activities. This is working great. Volunteers have been responding to daytime calls more than ever and have been spending time during the day with the career staff. It is my opinion that the morale has never been higher with volunteers and the career staff as it sits now. Jay Moreau stated that the fire department has put forth an atmosphere of less than honest and full information regarding the town's departments and employees that do not benefit the residents. One-sided information from volunteer leadership without input from actual town employees. I pride myself in the integrity I have always put forth. I have no hidden agenda. I don't make any less or any more for being fire chief. I volunteer because I love what I do. I'm not a mercenary who needs a paycheck to do what is right. Jay Moreau had photographs that were put forth. The picture of Deputy Chief Daigle and I on engine 115 was taken at his residence, just to clarify, on Town Farm Road on the day of his wedding, not the Guilford Yacht Club. This was dealt with by First Selectman Mark Walter in 2016. He did not get upset by this. Also, I assume the second photograph was of beer cans in the firehouse, which I assume Jay took a picture of 4 years ago. Mark also dealt with this. A comment was made that Ray Swoll and Brian Ald want to be paid guys. No amount of money is worth the reward of volunteering. End of story. Jay put forth about a clown car, the duty officer vehicle, which is used frequently by me, as most departments have a duty officer vehicle, is for conducting business in town. The cars help the department and other personnel respond to calls quickly to size up a scene, report to an R1 call, and to transport personnel to out-of-town classes. It is a perk for our officers to use on their duty nights if they wish to. The absurdity that Jay referred to about running his son off a road is ridiculous. The call I assume he was referring to is when I responded to a person drowning in a swimming pool on Salem Road. If there was ever a situation where I ran someone off the road, I would have immediately reported this to First Selectman Lyman and the Board of Fire Commissioners. The next statement of he's going to hurt somebody or kill somebody, which he was referring to me at this point, is absolutely libelous in my opinion, with no real facts to support. Jay made a comment about the fire chief wearing his uniform. I wear my uniform when meeting with town officials, meetings, etc. I represent the town of East Haddam. I do not show up sporting a beard, t-shirt, and shorts while I'm in public forum. I never have, and I never will. Jay stated the members of the department are intimidating. For an hour and a half, the people of East Haddam had no problem putting myself in the department I am responsible for over the coals when we asked for extra money for an added bay in order to protect our department's investments. If Jay is referring to our approach of entering a town meeting in a group, that's because we have each other's back, the same as in a fire. I have an open door policy for anyone in this town who would like to speak with me on any one issue. Jay brought up a firefighter who was arrested. Jed Felciano was charged with reckless driving, possession of a dangerous weapon, and drugs. Upon learning this on March 25th, 2018, while I was at the National Fire Academy, I learned this from then Safety Officer John Sarnick. I immediately had Sarnick suspend Felciano. Mr. Lyman was then immediately phoned and apprised of the event. The executive board decided that Jed would be stripped of his rank of lieutenant and suspension would continue pending the outcome of his charge. The case was then sealed as by the courts and Jed received community service. It was then decided on June 26, 2018 by the executive board that Jed would be brought back as a member of the fire department under probation for 6 months to include no driving of apparatus. Anything that came up that was deemed as inappropriate by the executive board would ultimately be Jed's final demise. Jed Felciano was then arrested again on September 1st, 2018 for a similar charge and was immediately terminated from the department by the executive board. I appreciate the support the Board of Selectmen has shown, as well as the people of East Haddam for the department thus far. If any of you would like further clarification on any one topic, please reach out. The department is here for the people of East Haddam. Please note, I have no ill will towards Jay Moreau, just confusion of intention. Teams win. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I have go on with my responses to things that have been asked in the past. One thing that I wanted to make clear, in the East Haddam News, it was reported that we had received a $130,000 grant from the state. I'm not sure where that came from. What we did report was that the state had checked 21 miles of East Haddam roads. It did not indicate in their report whether it was town roads or state roads. They found 134 significant trees. They excluded trees that were smaller from the report. The cost per tree to remove it could be upwards of $1,000 each. I think that's where perhaps the $134,000 came from. But there was no grant involved and certainly no offer by the state to deal with those trees and no indication of where they were actually located. I contacted the reporter and explained, I said, perhaps I misspoke or you misunderstood, but there is no grant. And I just wanted to make that very clear before anyone started asking where was it, what happened to it. A couple of comments from it, and this is speaking of Jay Moreau again. He asked why no one was checking in with a time clock as had been done in the past. Well, the time clock broke. There were no parts available. It's quite costly to replace the entire unit, and we're going to an online system in the near future. And the decision was made at that point that we would simply use cards in the interim. Most departments do not use a time clock. I think only the Public Works and the part-time or the paid staff at the fire department used one. So cards are quite common throughout the system. They're appropriate, I think, at the moment. And the cost of replacing that time clock would be very great. So it was considered, it was handled. There's some comment about the fire marshal, I'm losing the word, the deputy fire marshal. He covered for the fire marshal a couple of times, and inquiring into that, there were scheduling conflicts. He did not receive any extra compensation for doing that. He was just covering over for him. And that was during the time that he was being on paid staff duty. I think that's appropriate. I wouldn't want it to happen all the time, but I'm not gonna argue with that. There was some discussion about the paid staff. They were complaining that they weren't getting hours enough. I can tell you right now that those have been corrected. I looked at what had happened month of September, and I wasn't real comfortable with the scheduling that I saw. We talked about it, and the scheduling is very different now. And I think people are a whole lot happier. One of the comments he made that I rather like, he talked about drug testing for fire department personnel. We live in a time where drugs have become pervasive. You know, they are very concerned with other items that are going on in our society, firearms being one of them. It's worth considering, we had 88 homicides in 2016. And it's a very big deal. That's not to take anything away from it. We had 855 drug overdose deaths in the state of Connecticut in 2016. Drugs have become one of the biggest problems we have, and I think we all agree to that. The idea that we test anyone, certainly who is driving a motor vehicle on behalf of the town on a regular basis, makes sense to me. I brought that up at the Board of Fire Commissioners the other night, and everyone was in agreement that it's something we need to look into. Just how we're going to do it, I don't know, but I think that's going to become a matter of policy for us. It already is a matter of policy with the ambulance. And so I do think, I compliment Jay on that one. I think he touched on something that's very important. There was a discussion about the fire department on the other side of the swing bridge at the Dunkin' Donuts. And they were not over there getting coffee with a fire department vehicle. They'd actually been on a mutual aid call. Coffee was incidental to that call. And I believe it was after the fact, but I can't vouch for that. I hadn't asked that question. Someone went by, they honked at them, and that was commented upon. There it is. That's the reality of it. Another comment was made about Chatham Health and whether or not we should perhaps go to a different system. The thought was a sanitary and building inspector position. One of the things that I talked about when I first became a selectman and looked into, and the reality of it is it's going to be very costly. We probably would have to go with another health district. The one out of Saybrook is under consideration. All health districts right now are under a certain amount of stress. The qualification process for sanitarians has become difficult, and there's a great shortage. That hopefully is going to change when the state changes their policies in the near future. But it is something that we've talked about and looked into. There was a comment, and I'm going to get a little ahead here and out of order, that many citizens believe the existing proposal for development of the Old Town office site is a done deal. Not a done deal. Last Thursday, the Revitalization Committee met. We had this room as full as it is right now with people offering suggestions. They had put together a forum, asked the public to come, and offer their suggestions for what should happen with that property, how it should look when it's finished. Great many ideas were offered. Those are available online. You've got them in your bundle here tonight, along with anything that was written and mailed in letter form. Something to keep in mind is that we are going out with an RFP. We're putting it together right now. It shouldn't be too far down the road. You'll be getting copies of that. Request for a proposal. And what we're doing is looking for would-be developers to offer their vision of what could be done here. The information offered at the forum last Thursday hopefully gives them some sort of an idea what the town is looking for. And when we get an RFP that everybody's in agreement with and it's open-ended, that we like, we're going to bring it back to the town and actually ask the town what they think of it. I don't know if we're going to go all the way to a referendum. We're certainly not going to make the decision as a committee or as a board of selectmen. The town's gonna make that decision in the end. Could be a town meeting. I think probably a referendum is a better idea, but referendums are expensive. So we're gonna see how it goes forward. But right now, it's not a done deal, and we're looking for ideas and very eager for anyone that wishes to get involved to be part of it.
Emmett,
Yes, sir.
are we going to pursue the Main Street group and see if they
Yes.
can take advantage of some of their backgrounds and skills?
Yes, and forgive me, I meant to have that on this meeting for us to authorize that. And perhaps you can make that as a motion a little later. $500 to join it. I've talked to people about it. Not a bad idea. They will certainly bring people into play that we wouldn't see otherwise. I knew there was something I'd forgotten that I wanted on this. Okay. Going down through. There was a discussion, and this was something we vetted a year ago, that there was a FOI that came through. We looked into it, and I thought it was probably the same matter again, but I wasn't sure at the last meeting, so I just didn't say anything. And it was a question regarding pillars that were installed by the town on O'Connell Road Extension. And it took me a while to remember it fully, but when I did, I reached out. The contractor who was involved with that is here. Jimmy Curtin. And Jimmy, could you comment on that whole evolution, what happened, what it meant to the town, and why it was occurred?
Sure. We're in phase 2 of the redevelopment of our road extension, and we got to the point where the stakeout was done for the road width in that section. And we are constrained by transformers, underground transformers that are set on one side of the road. And it forced us also, because of the width of the road, to enable the installation of the Cape Cod curbs, which are particularly wide, so you need an extra 2 feet of road for those. And it pushed us right into the stone wall in front of Rick Roy's house, and it was really, Beth and I went over this several times, there's no way to get around it. Either that or the road was gonna do a U around this wall. We talked to Rick, and we suggested, at least I did, that we make a deal, and if we're gonna encroach on his land, which we were, because the wall was his line, iron pins were right in it, that we would, we'd save the rocks, put it in a pile near his house, we would dig the footing for those pillars, and the town would be on the hook to have them built. But he would give up his piece of land without issue immediately. And he talked to his wife, he agreed to it, and that's the way it was left. We, as a contractor, we charged nothing, it was just get the road done, that was it. Because if you tried to eminent domain that little strip, you'd still be out there trying to get it done, and you would spend 10 times that amount with attorneys. And the time would have been ridiculous. So it was a simple deal that worked, and I think Rick was probably more accommodating than most people because he works for the town and didn't want to be the guy that obstructed the job. So I noticed the pillars are up, that was something the town did, and I didn't speak to that. But it was a simple deal that worked, and everyone kept moving.
Did it represent even money or savings or what for the
It
town?
was the cheapest thing you possibly do, and there was almost no money spent whatsoever. I mean, almost nothing. And it had to be done where the road would have had a little S in the middle of it. It was on a long straightaway, which would look ridiculous. So, that's the deal that was struck, and it made perfect sense to me. It I didn't charge anything for what we did, and we were able to keep moving with the road, and it's done, and survived the storm apparently.
That's it. One of the few roads.
It made sense to you, Beth, at the time to do it that way.
Well, to build the pillars was extremely less expensive than reconstructing an entire stone wall. So,
What was
yes.
it, 200 feet of wall or something in that neighborhood?
200 feet, the entire length of his, he was the only person out there with a full wall from one end of his property to the other. And we needed every bit of it, so the wall was removed. We took away all the boulders at the bottom as part of doing the road widening, but we saved all those small ones for pillars.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Question.
Yes, sir.
So, did we receive land in exchange? Was there a transfer of land for this?
No, the road is basically probably sitting right on the edge of his property line, but that was in the middle of the stone wall. So there was no transfer of property or anything else, but believe me, that road was not gonna fit in there without taking that wall out. Plus the trees that were growing out of the wall.
So the remnants of the wall are still there, though?
No, the entire wall was removed. But it had to go because the road had to be extended right into the full width of the wall to fit the curb on it.
So on the adjacent property, on the south, the wall comes up to the corner of his property by his driveway and then goes back,
Yeah,
correct?
there's a wall beyond him, there's the opening to his driveway, then from his mailbox all the way to his property corner with his brother. That was stone wall. That's where the wall ended. There was no wall.
So that 300 feet, basically, you removed all that?
200, I don't know exactly.
300 feet approximately, according to the survey. So, there's some survey pins out there. Now, is there underground conduit in that whole area?
Well, the underground power is on the other side of the road. That's what forced us over into his wall, because there's transformers sitting there and we could only get so close. So nobody wanted to move all the underground transformers. That was gonna cost a fortune also.
So this was an error by the engineer, is what you're saying?
Basically, the way it was drawn up, a minimum amount of money was spent on the plan, taking into consideration that, but when it was staked out, it would not fit. So, I don't think a lot of time was spent to look at that the wall was in the way, but it was definitely in the way.
My point being that if there's an error made in design, I mean, you know, somebody's culpable and we shouldn't necessarily have to be spending the money. I don't know if the value of the land was $6,500. I mean, the pillars are way back on his property now and they're very large pillars. I don't know why he needed 4 foot by 4 foot pillars and lighting and with an extension off the back, but times 2. But 4 foot by 4 foot by, I guess by 4 foot probably. But I just, I don't know if that was clear when I signed the check, and I think that's what I find annoying about this, that there are still a number of questions in my mind, and I'd like to see the engineered plans for the road, because they are, I just find it very interesting.
Those I assume are available.
I have a set in my office.
Okay.
Go. Report back to us what you find.
I will.
Okay. And that pretty much wraps up what I have for comments. So, moving forward, citizens' concerns.
I'd like to show you a picture. I did a survey with land use as well, did the survey maps, and that stone wall belonged to the town. It's had a map to the homeowner, according to the survey maps and according to the emails I got from land use. This is the after effects. They took down a stone wall. Look at the size of the trees that were left. So tell me why these trees were in front of the stone wall are still there. This was taken in April.
Can you send those to us so we're not looking at your phone?
Yep.
If you wouldn't mind, Terry.
So I don't understand where, and there was no communication apparently about this. This was a decision made via no emails, nothing. So my question is, if the stone wall belonged to the town of East Haddam, why are we compensating the homeowner? And if the stone wall had to be removed for construction, why are trees still left there? And then why did the town not receive any kind of compensation in return if this belonged to the homeowner?
I can address some of that now. Basically, the wall is common ownership between the town and the landowner. That's the way all the stone walls are that face the road.
Not true.
It is, because that's the common way the boundaries are done. The iron pins were right in the middle of the wall. It means the landowner could not take the wall out without permission from the town, and the town can't take the wall out without permission from the landowner. That's common throughout the whole town.
Mm-hmm.
There are no trees between the wall and the road.
I just,
Because if we could have left that there, why would I bother to remove the guy's wall? It would not fit, and the reason it was squeezed over there is because of the transformers. You could only get so close to the transformers, that was the issue. How close could we get to the transformers on the opposite side and not have the road take an S-turn around this guy's wall. So that was the whole issue. And every tree right up to the wall is gone, there's no doubt about that, plus any ones that were growing out of it are gone. Any trees left, they were on the other side of the wall. And those were left because we didn't want to do any more than we had to. Every tree that was removed cost us money as a contractor. I'm not taking out trees, I don't have to. And I wouldn't remove that wall unless it was absolutely necessary.
According to the email I have from Andy, and I'll forward it to you, there are several stone walls in town that belong strictly to the town and not the homeowner. It depends on the width of the road. And as I pointed out in our meeting this morning, this is one of those walls. So I can send you the email and the survey maps if you want. His property ended before the stone wall, according to the survey maps and according to where the pens were placed, according to land use.
Okay, send us what you have.
Okay.
Now, you found pins in the middle of the wall.
There were pins in the wall, that's. They were
Pins.
right there.
Typically, from surveying, my experience with planning and zoning, define the property line. If you have something that proves that contrary to that, then we'll look at it.
And then my other comment goes back to the fire department, and I don't think they should be the only ones tested.
I'm sorry, speak up, please.
The fire department, as far as the drug testing, I don't think we should just single out the fire department for drug testing. I think that all employees who operate with any kind of equipment, town equipment, or drive the vehicles should be tested.
Yeah, that would be the program that we'd be looking for we're finished, yes.
If they have a DOT, B or A, they get tested. They're supposed to be getting tested,
Public Works is.
Our
tested.
Public Works does.
I assume
And
that.
it might be an extension of that. There was another program that the Motor Transport Association of Connecticut was suggested as well. I looked them up. They seem to be a possible candidate for that. But we're just beginning to research that. Okay. Any other public comments?
Sean Daigle, I'm Deputy Fire Chief of East Hampton Fire. I got a few notes on my phone, so pardon me for reverting back to it. I've been a volunteer for 19 years, and 16 of those years as an officer, and 7 of those years as a chief officer with Chief Alt. So I'd like to take a few moments just to comment on a few things, just to lightly back up what Chief Alt talked about. I felt several positions of supervisory level in the private sector and volunteer sector. And I'll be quite honest with you that in all my years as a supervisor, I've never met a more hardworking, dedicated, professional group of people in my life. And if you look at all of them, they are the epitome of what it is to be a volunteer. Firefighter, and even our paid staff are top notch. So that being said, excuse me, I have a little cold. Every 2 weeks, when we get a chance to review in our spare time the video on YouTube from the previous Selectmen meeting, it leaves us bewildered and very disheartened. And my own personal opinion, not the department's opinion, that it's pretty apparent that people have too much time on their hands. That's pretty obvious that people have way too much time on their hands. And there's a lot of other causes out there, needy causes, that they can benefit from their excess time. So maybe those people who are always Monday morning quarterbacking us can find other causes to use your time, utilize their appears to be excess time. That's just my own personal opinion. So I'll wrap up by saying this. The unjustified bi-weekly B-rating of all the volunteers, and even our paid staff, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. So,
Thank you, Sean. Any other comments?
I got a question. Chapman Bridge is out. Can't go over there. We got a dirt road going up Jones Hill Road. It's washed out.
I'm sorry, which bridge?
Foxtown Road,
Foxtown Road.
at the top of the falls.
Yeah, so my question is, has anyone arranged for Salem to respond to any response to that side of the river?
That's automatic with Lyman Salem already, prior to the issues in the storm. They're both on the response for that. And they are aware of the situation and that we will be significantly delayed and they may be the primary
Okay,
responding agent.
now my question is there any way of getting that dirt road graded? Because it's good watch out, that's the only way to get down unless you go all the way around.
It's under evaluation right now. We've got a figure for it,
$12,000.
$12,000 for the repairs on it. And we have to set priorities and move as quickly as we can. That is an important bridge, no question about it. That is scheduled, I'm trying to think, is it next year or the year after?
It's
We're a
supposed to
complete rebuild by the state. Yeah. When is it?
It's coming spring.
Yeah, this coming spring, they're scheduled to completely rebuild it, replace it. I'm not sure just how we're gonna handle that now.
Emmett, just as a aside while we're chatting on this, I know we don't normally chat, but we have a large event scheduled for the Hop Yard on the 13th. And we typically have used the the campground, which is on the, shall we say, the wrong side of the bridge for parking. We put 100 to 200 cars in there. So it'd be very nice if there's any way that could be opened up before the 13th.
Of October.
Yeah. So,
You don't ask much.
It's not happening.
The downstream allotment has been compromised, so unless I'm authorized funding to repair that and
Is that something that could be repaired that quickly?
not in-house, I don't even know.
We were talking something like, what, 8 days?
I'm just making a statement. I haven't had a chance to look at it myself, and I'm not an engineer, so.
It is closed now, and wow. We'll look at it and see what we can do.
Just wanted to make you aware of that.
Got another, can they move the, bridge out, further down, so you don't have people coming down, turn around, coming back up the road?
We've
go to
had,
West Road or whatever.
8 road closed signs stolen in the time that we've been out, so we had signs. So we ordered just today another 10. So-
No idea where they're going.
Ackley
Somebody
Road,
finds them
the
attractive.
sign has been stolen 3 times,
Wow.
so.
It is, the other nuances of this are
There was, and
remarkable.
we ordered more, so.
Okay. Any other citizens' concerns? Okay, moving ahead, unfinished business. I actually touched on revitalization once again. They are very open and eager for input and ideas. And moving ahead with dealing with our property down at 1 to 7 Main in the village. I'm going to skip over the transfer citation control trailer. To be perfectly honest, we haven't been able to focus on any of that for the last 2 weeks, or the last week certainly. And those are all on hold while we try to sort out this rainstorm. Going to the crisis and strategic communications, Sue, can you report on that?
Sure, so we've had 3 meetings so far, September 6th, 10th, and 21st. Again, our committee is to analyze the safety and security of all citizens as it pertains to the town buildings, right? And so we reviewed that in the first meeting, and also for a comprehensive communications plan. Our town does great with emergency management and, Craig getting out communications when there's that type of an emergency, but we really need to come up with a plan for overall communications. Most of our meetings have been held in executive session. I will say that we're very lucky that we have the staff we have for the police department and our director of operations. I think we have a lot of skills we have great plans in place already. We have great security features in place. But we, we have talked a lot about weaknesses we have, and that's what we're focusing on. That's why we're in executive session, most meetings. The last meeting, we did have LaShane Sullivan come in with regards to the communications plan, and that's what you brought to us a few months ago, and that's how this committee arose. That's what we're really doing with that. They did a great presentation. And maybe it's because the morning we didn't really, no one came to the meeting other than the committee. So we, as a committee, did talk about hiring them. There was discussion if there are other companies and there are steps, right? So we're talking about just the first phase of a communications plan, which is really the plan, base plan. Whether you buy services after, if there's a crisis to hire them and stuff like that, that's a different story. But we're just trying to get a base plan in place, right? So when we have issues like, the high school or even,
The flooding?
the flooding, I was surprised with the flooding that our police weren't aware of the situation the next day. So I just think there's we definitely need to build a communications plan, right? So when I say they weren't aware, I mean, obviously, but when they got on duty, there was some type of lack of communication somewhere. I don't know how we fix that, but that's what we're doing. We're fixing these little things. They didn't know the school was shut, and they didn't know, there were other roads closed.
I don't think there was any communications from emergency management until in the morning, correct?
Right, which was great,
Yeah,
but
when it got
interesting
there,
enough,
It was 10 o'clock before we were even beginning to think about that.
right, yeah, I mean, no, I think I got a call at 6 a.m.
5:30.
Yeah, 5:30, whatever time it was, the phone rang a lot that night. So, but that was one, little thing we noticed, that the police don't get Everbridge. They need to sign up for it, right?
Yeah.
All department heads really should be signed up for Everbridge.
And anyone can sign up for any Everbridge.
Right, but we should make it a policy and have
And
that in place,
we've
right, so that they're
discussed that
aware.
already.
So those are the types of things we're working on. So this LaShane Sullivan came in and gave us their proposal, and as a committee, we voted to move it to the selectmen for approval. So I guess I can make a motion and we can talk about it more.
Okay.
So I can make a motion to waive the requirement for 2 price quotes and award the contract for a crisis communications plan and year-long strategic communications plan to Sullivan LaShane in the amount of $14,000.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
So you say you have a lot of experience there and a lot of background, and this is something that you feel is absolutely essential and that your people can't put together.
Most definitely.
Curiously enough,
And when I talk about experience too, I mean, I'm talking more for the security. I'm talking more security-wise, right?
Okay.
Our police department, so we have a lot of experience on security and safety. Communications, I think, is another issue.
Okay.
So that's what this LaShane and Sullivan is, just communications, right? Not.
actually for this event, the rain event, I've got notes from their presentation that I keep on my desk at all times. And I referred to those, and we were using their recommendations in part for how we were communicating about what happened there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I
they
mean,
got that deep into your discussion?
I've been to one of their presentations.
Yeah.
And very impressed with it. And as I say, I keep their notes on the desk at all times.
And they're not here doing the communications for us.
Mhm.
That's up to us to do they're just giving us a plan and putting a plan in place. So
Plan.
we know, who to. So,
And they've done this for several other
oh,
towns?
yes, yep, we did this.
They're renowned in the field.
We saw them at CCM.
It's exactly where I saw the presentation, and as I say, the notes are there and they were used. I think they're probably just about as good as you could hope for this. Your motion?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Where is this money gonna come from again?
Oh, so
She's got
the
it.
Board of Finance, the Board of Finance,
That's
well, and that was one of the issues.
Yep.
Because that's one of the issues of why we're choosing to not get, more quotes, is the time constraint we have. Because the Board of Finance kind of did it backwards and put the money aside, I guess we only have 6 months to use it.
The quote was from last spring that we have for 14,000.
So that's why, we're moving ahead with it.
I still have that quote also on my desk along with the other.
There is another one out there, but
It's
we didn't
significantly-
know them as,
Yeah.
and it was more money, so.
I think we've done well by that. Okay,
And can I just add one more thing? Also, our goal is to get our final needs in place by, the end of November.
mhm.
That's why we're meeting so much. We just wanna get it done by the end of November so that we can present it in the budget and have some public comment on it.
Glad to see this moving along so rapidly.
We'll see if it stalls.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. I got more bundles of paper here than I can count. We have a fee schedule for, there we go. How they become clipped together. For tree removal, and we got that last time and tabled it against this meeting for a little bit more explanation about what was going on with it. And I'm gonna make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Public Works Director, set tree removal rates as follows. Bucket truck and operator, $180 per hour, bucket truck only, $150, and additional worker, $50 per hour. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, and discussion. There was some confusion about it, and Beth, could you just comment on that, what we're doing here?
Sure, we set out, it's a bid solicitation, so contractors submit their prices on what it would cost, what they'd be willing to. Just like we do with the snow plowing, what we do is the contractors submit a price, and then typically we take the lowest price for each category that was offered, so that's how it came about that. Ideally, what we wanna use is the bucket truck operator and one person. So the additional person for $50 an hour that was put out there in case it came back low and it ended up being cheaper than what our employees are billed out at, so. Which it didn't, but we held it just in case we get so overwhelmed that we would need it. But right now, we're looking at the $180 an
And
hour.
we've had one operation at that cost already.
We've started utilizing Charlie Islin at the 180 rate.
Okay, and that saved us some money on the one job that he did.
It has saved us significant because with our crew helping, that saves not paying for specialized service. Specialized service is being able to go in the bucket truck and remove it near the wires. Our crew is skilled to clean up the brush once it's on the ground, so there's no sense in paying that high rate for something we can do in-house.
This has the potential to work well for us.
So typically, when we've used Charlie Wilson in the past, he might remove 2 trees in a day. Today, for instance, we removed 7 trees. So we're not doing immediate cleanup or stockpiling, we're going back and getting it when we have the time, so.
So my questions are this, with the number of trees that we have here, would Reynolds be willing to work at a 180 when they quoted 200?
That's something we would have to discuss. We have to offer it to them
Well, my
at
point,
that rate. We have for snow plowing, and contractors have been willing to work at the rate we posted. So that's,
Are you saying so we can have multiple?
Yeah, because with the number of trees we're looking at, I mean, I can see it needing more than just one crew. And considering that Reynolds was offering the same basic rate for a bucket truck operator and additional worker as Island, I'm wondering if, if they feel they can't do the job, bucket truck and operator for 180, that maybe we're cutting our nose off to spite our face if we need a lot of work, and the evidence is that we're going to need a considerable amount of work. So we have lots and lots of trees here.
So, can I ask, don't you always need an additional worker along with the person operating the bucket truck?
that's what the 180 is, the bucket operator and a person. So 2 people, essentially, the additional person would be a third.
Okay. Okay.
So when you get a bucket truck, then what
You
is
have a guy in the bucket and then a guy on the ground.
Okay, so it says bucket truck and operator.
So it's a bucket truck operator and a-
someone on the ground. Okay.
The one company that quoted 150, that was one sole person. Which we opted not to go with.
Reynolds, that was Reynolds, that was quoted 150 for just a truck.
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions?
Yeah, I just, for the additional $20 an hour, considering how much, if they're willing to come and work for us at $180, I'm fine, but,
Right now, they're dedicating 2 days a week,
Island is.
Island is.
Well, that's my point. Maybe we should have somebody working here every day, and is Reynolds willing to come in at 180? I think that's a question that has to be answered.
Well, at this point, we can't spare the manpower to have 2 crews. We're in an emergency situation.
With
I
the,
barely could spare the 2 today to work with the tree crew and not address road conditions, so they're only public.
Well, I understand that, and this particular week is a bit of an exception, but we're looking at extending this out over the winter or for the next year or so, I just really would, I think we should have the option of having a second crew here.
Can't we just make that in the motion? Why can't
Well,
we just say if
that-
anyone's willing to come in with the same?
Yeah, that's the way it works typically. Someone comes in for 180, but I'm just wondering if Reynolds doesn't want to come in, then we're looking at, Island is quite a bit less than everyone else, and I don't want to be stuck with just one company,
I
is
think
my
if
point.
that becomes an issue, we can go back and revisit it.
If that's something we want to do. I'd rather take care of it all at once here now, but.
If we offer the 2, if you're saying approve the $200, then we have to pay Island $200.
And we can't approve that they're selected, or their quote, or the bid?
That's not how it works.
Okay.
You have to award one, right? One price, I believe.
So we can't approve the 180 then but if the other
We
company
have to
comes in at
approve the
180,
100.
If
and
he's
then-
willing to work at
if
180,
he's
he
willing to
can,
work at 180, then he can come in and work,
he's
right?
more than welcome.
Yes, anybody would be willing to work at that price.
So
We're
what you're
simply
saying
setting
is
a
you want
price.
to.
I get that, but when we buy gravel, one company's paying or charging us $45 a yard, or call it $30 a yard, another one's charging $32 a yard, and we don't tell them how much they're gonna charge, and occasionally we need gravel from both of them, so we pay the difference. I'm not sure that this is that much different.
We do that.
I was told I could award one price
Yeah, I don't think we can do that.
in the way that this bid was worded.
Is is it an issue with the bid then, or is it, we have no answers here, I'm getting the feeling.
Fee solicitation. Set a median price for homeowners.
Okay,
Okay,
well, I hope Reynolds will come in for 180 then.
me too. Anything further? All in favor? Aye.
I'll abstain.
You're staying.
Abstain?
Okay. Moving on to new business, beer and wine approvals. And it's worth noting here that on town property, liquor is forbidden, any form, without the permission of this body, the Board of Selectmen. And we can do that in certain cases and have traditionally done so. And this is from Patrick Murray, Great Hillwood Road, Moodus, Connecticut. I'm submitting this request to serve beer and wine at the Grange Old Town Hall property during the 2018 Fife and Drum Muster to take place October 19th and 20th. Although the actual event takes place on Saturday, 10/20, we'd like to greet, misspelling there, our out-of-town guests Friday evening with a hot meal and a cold drink. We will provide the required insurances requested, and I, as well as other members of the Moodus Fife and Drum, will be present while alcohol is being served. Please feel free to contact us with any questions. Patrick Murphy, Moodus Fife and Drum. And I'm going to make a motion to approve serving beer and wine at the Grange Hall for Moodus Drum and Fife Muster on October 19th and 20th, 2018. Can I get a second?
Check.
Okay, Rob. Discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And we have a second, and the letter is to whom it may concern. We are hosting our daughter's first birthday at the Grange Hall and are hopeful to be able to serve beer and wine to adults 21 years or older. Letter will serve as a formal request, will serve to formally request permission for alcoholic beverages to be served at our event Sunday, November 11th, 2018 at the Grange Hall. Thank you, Jessica Lancato. And I will make a motion to approve the serving of beer and wine at Grange Hall for a birthday party on November 11th, 2018. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving forward to board and commission changes. Have a letter from Victoria Riley. It says, "Hi Brad, per our conversation earlier, due to a change in employment status, I will no longer be able to serve on the Committee on Aging. It's been a pleasure serving the seniors of our committee. Thank you, Vicki Riley Pop." And I will make a motion to accept with regret the resignation of Vicki Riley Pop from the Commission on Aging. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And moving on to tax refunds. I am going to make a motion to award tax refunds in the amount as presented, $280.50 to Raymond Flattery, $485.24 to Douglas Grimes, $119.08 to Dexter LaFawn. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and once again, we're at public comments. Any further public comments, please? Okay, thank you. Selectmen's discussion, we got a whole series of things. Thunder in the Valley is going to occur 10/20, Grange Hall Town Hall, as we have already mentioned here. Chatham Health Clinic, they have a flu clinic at the high school, 10/24, from 3 till 6 p.m. And they have higher intensity doses for those people who are 65 years and older. And you do need to bring a copy of your insurance card and a printed copy of the influenza vaccination consent form for each person receiving a vaccination. You can find that at www.chathamhealth.org. And
Any indication whether that'll be available on site? Because I'm sure there's some people that will show up without it.
I'm sure they'll have it.
let's bring it. I would hope that you could do it on site. Seems strange if you couldn't. The police department, our police department, East Haddam, is doing a drug take-back day. It's going to be here at the municipal office complex. The police officer, 10/27, October 27th, from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. Opportunity to get rid of any old medications you have that you need to get disposed of. And we have Project Safe Halloween. It's going to occur in this building on the 31st from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. And it's going to be an interesting sort of an event where kids come in at the police entrance on the far end, come through. There'll be opportunities to trick or treat along the way, and then end up in the gymnasium. And for us, there'll be probably a table set up down there where we can hand out. I invite you both to be part of that. Come in your costumes, it's a lot of fun. You get to see all the kids and have a great time. And we get pizza and soda on top of it. It's a lot of fun. That said, anything either of you have your comments on, once again, on the event down to 8 Mile River?
Nothing additional on that.
When does that happen again? The date?
13th, 1 to 4. But people start showing up, from noon on.
10/13, and it was 10 to 4?
1 to 4.
1 to 4. You're gonna have all the raptors and all the really neat stuff that is usually there.
Yep. I think we have
A great opportunity.
30 or more different groups participating, so.
Doing presentations.
Yep. Or, having exhibits there, so.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
That is
It
remarkable.
might even be 40.
And not as much parking as we might like.
That is gonna be an issue, so that's one of the things we're trying to look at how to address it, so.
Okay,
Aren't
Before-
there a bunch of events going on in town this weekend too? For like the fall
Yes,
festival or something?
there's a whole bunch of stuff going on this weekend, so, all over the place.
we don't have that noted here. And I don't know, is anyone able to comment on that?
I know there's the folk,
Economic Development Commission is doing
I'm sorry?
the Economic Development Commission is doing their, well, businesses have specials.
That's in conjunction with Haddam and, but no, Haddam's not involved with this
No,
one.
no, this is just us, there's a folk festival, there's a folk festival down in Hadlime Hall. There's the bonfire is when?
Where is that?
Saturday night?
It's gonna be at the skating pond, I believe.
Sunday.
We have Touch a Truck here.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things going
Leo's Club is having their Apple Festival on Saturday at the Grange Hall.
There's Staley's has a lot of stuff going on, I believe, so.
Staley has a bunch of stuff, yes.
So I think that's all going on,
It's gonna be quite the weekend.
it will be very busy, yes.
I'm surprised we don't have a flyer on that here. But,
Well, it's online.
it's all online, there you go.
It's on page. We have a Facebook page.
Multiple groups, so. Before we go to executive session, we wanted a motion for an agreement or contract or whatever with Main Street Group.
Okay, make a motion to that effect?
Yes,
The amount is $500.
yes, to expend $500 for their expertise and their contacts for RFPs.
So we've authorized that. I'll second that. Discussion?
No, I think I brought it up last time, so.
Okay, well, it should have been here, I apologize.
Aye.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and with that said, we're going to be going into executive session, and we have to ask everyone to leave.
Not right now.
Okay. Sure.
This went a lot faster than I thought it would.
Shoot me an email.
Yeah.